Okay, so and without further ado, if you've been here before, you know what we're going to do next. And if you're new, grab your remote and have your thumb on the play button. Just don't press it because we're going to do that at the same time on the count of 3. Ready? Shelly, do you want to do the countdown?
Mama. Sure. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I'm synced with somebody. Shaloob.
Love him.
He's awesome.
I think he's a germaphobe in this one.
Keiko's favorite show, or one of her favorite shows, is Monk.
I'm currently watching Wings, so I'm getting a little crossover now too.
Oh yes, I haven't seen Wings in forever.
I love that the song in that scene is "Teach Me Tonight," which is the title episode of one of the Gilmore Girls episode. It's very Amy Sherman Palladino.
Oh, thank you for that fact.
Yeah.
Speaking of Gilmore, hold on.
A little bit like
just a little.
And we have a blonde.
I was going to say blonde hair.
I think she's blonde in real life.
Oh my goodness. Gilbert Gottfried.
He's looked exactly the same for like 30 years.
Yes, he has.
Oh, this is awesome. Are we gonna say a huppa?
I don't think there is, but I could be wrong. He's just so happy.
I love the fashion in this show.
It's so
Oh,
good.
I just
Soundtrack. Good.
not just the costumes, just the whole world. Look at this.
All
So
the
much
Well,
detail.
this is what shooting in New York and not on the Warner Brothers backlot will do for your show.
yeah, but like to put all those old timey cars on like set like on Central Park, like that's insane.
Yeah, to
Like
clear out sections of Central Park so that only like tons
Oh,
of extras
they've
can be
done it.
walking past.
My brother's been an extra on this show. It's insane what they do.
Not non-kosher butcher.
And Sam Phillips also had a hand in the music of this show as well.
I also just love this song.
Jerry. Black and white cookies.
That's a reference to another show.
Maybe Seinfeld.
Yes.
Look at that apartment.
It's a classic 6.
Shelley, I agree with you. The soundtrack for this is fabulous.
I'm guessing that this guy is a terrible comedian. I really want to watch this again and like pause on shots like that, and just see like, is there anything that they missed? Is there something in the background that is modern? Is there something there? Because you pass by this stuff and you're like,
There,
whoa, they got everything.
I was just
there,
thinking the same thing.
there is a bus that is like a year off or something like that.
Oh, but I mean bigger than that. I mean, if something like that,
Yeah.
that's nothing. But like, I'm talking about like, can I see like, somebody, with a pair of like a, I don't know, like a cell phone or
Like
Like
something.
the proverbial coffee cup on the
I was just
Game of
gonna
Thrones.
say
Yeah.
Yeah.
that.
Uh, so are they going to that, or is he performing? I think he's performing because he's got a little turtleneck on, and he's gonna stink.
I love this little club.
Gaslight.
Just in general, I miss living in a city like this. I mean, not even the period. Just, I mean, that exists today, where you can just walk into a little bar, but not really in Los Angeles, or at least not in the area I live.
Alex. Alex.
Love it.
Love it. Great intro to their dynamic.
Bootsy.
Aw.
I know.
Wait, what? Oopsie.
Bootsy.
Yeah, they said Bootsy.
Oh, Bootsy.
May you rest in peace.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, so I was wrong. He didn't. He didn't stink.
But you'll find out some other stuff. Wants latkes. Her little
That was
notebooks.
definitely shot on a screen. Like that was shot in on a stage. That looks like video back there. But it looks good though. Like it feels.
They have the condensation on the window.
I mean, I could be wrong. It also seemed as though a modern car drove
Yeah, I
by,
saw a
but
modern car. That's what I was
yeah,
thinking. There was just a
but
second
like
one.
but the condensation, the fog, all that stuff kind of hides it. It's really smart. Like that looks like a light that
Yeah.
was there back there. That was totally a modern light.
Yeah, those are all modern cars.
All modern stoplights. That's cool. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of geeking out about that kind of stuff, but
Good night, Gracie.
interesting. There, she's really pulling out the references.
Are they references or is it just how she writes?
I think it's
It's
just
just in her.
Amy.
It's in her bones.
They're probably nods, though.
Things women do.
That's a ton of face cream.
And it would be all over the pillow.
Yes.
Literally all over the pillow. I love the morning.
This is my favorite.
Yeah, this is my favorite too. I love.
Goodness, oh goodness.
This is 4 years into the marriage too.
I
Let's
was
just be
just gonna
honest.
say 4 years.
Not 4 weeks, not 4 months.
That
This
Four
oh,
seems
years.
a, this seems a little hard to buy, but I mean, it's funny, but it doesn't seem real.
But I mean, it is like the show's late 50s, early 60s. So, like,
I
that's
mean,
what women do.
it seems like a caricature of what we expect from that era. I don't know, like really, like with the perfume and the makeup, all of that stuff.
Well, I think we're meant to get something about Midge from all of that work. We're supposed to understand like what like she got the brisket, she got the time slot, now she's perfect in the morning. Like,
Right.
she's sort of pulling all the strings.
She's pulling all the strings. She's one thing you get is she's very skilled. That's for sure.
I love
And
that pink
well
dress.
dressed. Whew. Love her dress.
the costumes are great.
At some point, we see the closet, and it's amazing.
Marvelous.
That's some jadeite. Jadeware is what it was called.
Oh, this is
Isn't
another
isn't
one.
that isn't that stuff radioactive?
I don't know. They still sold it at the antique mall where I worked 25 years ago.
ASP's got some like negative opinions of baby heads and children's heads.
Maybe she had a giant head or something and people made fun of her for it.
Maybe.
I always found it interesting that her parents have like a crib and a full setup for the kids.
My mom still has my old pram that looks like that. Can you imagine having an apartment that size, like nowadays in the city?
Some people still do.
I was gonna say they still
Yeah, I mean,
exist.
Yes.
some people have held on to those.
It's
Just
called
noticed that
generational wealth.
too. I just noticed that the mezuzah was on the door, but I'll talk about
This actress, her friend, was in Bunheads and the revival.
Yep.
I find it absolutely insane that she is measuring every part of her body. Like, ew.
She
And
was part of
she's
the 30-something club, right?
yes.
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 The 30-something gang. What was it called?
The 30 something
And
gang. Yep.
every day for 10 years she's done this.
Uh-oh.
Whoa.
Faster is better.
Oh, jeez.
There's some depression wear back there.
Is that real? Is that true? I, hmm.
That's not true.
I was gonna say this seems a little hard to buy.
about the meatloaf recipe.
Oh no, just this whole like that he took Bob Newhart or
I think there was
just
a history of like lower level people doing that, but like
doing
to
that
take
for.
some
But I would imagine doing it within like smaller, more into like unknown, but like taking it from like a well-known album seems
see
a little.
that's another thing though. He wasn't as well known at this time as like later.
Oh, okay.
There's apparently some inconsistencies with that in but I mean that bit is also from like Grammy award winning album.
Oh my gosh, she's measuring the baby's head.
It looks pretty big.
Gonna give the baby a complex.
My son had a ginormous head, and we didn't tease him, but some people did, and he still has a complex about it. So,
My son has the biggest head you've ever seen, and he knows it.
I mean, it's funny because like she is gonna give the baby a complex, but her mother clearly gave her a complex, so
Oh yeah,
it kind
like
of tracks.
mother, like daughter.
She should have brought the latkes. Her little gesture.
She's from Bunheads.
Yeah, she was also on Bunheads.
Yeah, that's what I recognize her most from.
Who doesn't love Hillbilly Polka? I have a story about like that from Spokane.
I don't remember this at all, but it's hilarious.
Who's better, this girl or the guy from the poetry reading at Jess's printing place or publishing place or whatever it is?
I like
The
this
Poet
girl.
Society. Well, then there was the Post Society.
No one does.
No boy.
Oh boy. This
So
is
you
a
were
real
right, John.
stinker. He's terrible.
He just can't do his own stuff.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he just can't write stuff.
He's not funny.
He even bombs the repeat of the stolen one.
Oy. This is a real cringer. Oh man, this is hard to watch.
I wonder if any of the names on the posters behind are like crew members and stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to read some of that stuff.
Oh, he blames her.
Oh man. Wait, what?
Hits keep coming.
Oh man.
Ew.
What a jerk.
Welcome to the I Hate Joel Club.
Wow. Wow. I mean,
Yeah, I want to know who Penny is and how she wronged Amy Sherman Palladino because Penny always seems to be the like evil villain.
Oh, Penelon Lot.
Yes, people with the Penny or Penelin name. In more sense than one.
yeah, right? I mean, that was great. Yeah. Terrible comedian.
Bad timing all around.
Ew. What a dick.
There's better words to use than that to call him. Maybe not on Clubhouse.
I was trying to edit myself.
I hear you, MJ.
I mean, she's just been set up to be just like infinitely better than him in every single way. Took her suitcase. I mean, took her in suitcase.
I always hated her mother's reaction.
Very much like Emily.
I I like her dad's.
Sailor talk. I love that.
Weak man again comes up in this show. Like that descriptor.
Just go to another room. I do love the delivery of his lines, though.
Zaybars. I love Zaybars.
A lot of this is now making sense. How she gets from here to what I saw at the end of season 3.
How many seasons are there?
3.
4 will
They're
come out
filming the
like
fourth.
next year.
I'm already kind of guessing. I'm already starting to guess what comes next.
I'd like
John
to
prediction.
hear what that is, John.
Some
Well,
gold.
I'm guessing that Alex's character plays a role in a. I'm gonna guess a campfire scene, a classic campfire scene.
John's got some more drunk acting to add to his list.
Yeah,
Yes,
she's chugging some wine.
that is right there, a premium drunk performance for my collection.
She's just amazing, anyways. Just amazing.
I also love the old timey subway. Makes me happy.
Think they filmed that in the Transport Museum, Diana?
Probably not, but they did get the signs right.
We went to the Transportation Museum. It was fun to see all the old subway.
She thinks that's weird. Get ready for some gold.
It might be a campfire.
I love how the camera is like steady cam, but it's like swaying as it's following her and going up onto the stage.
Oh yeah, get ready to add all of this to your collection.
Oh man.
She's amazing.
That's Maisel's Penel and Lot.
Kristen, your mic is open.
Campfire, John?
No, not a campfire. A different kind of fire.
I liked your innocent prediction.
The Lenny Bruce.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
The kettle of fish bar still
Now we got.
exists.
Now we're gonna get a campfire.
I love this tune.
What is this place?
It's the party.
The house party. Yep.
Oh, right.
Is that more realistic, Diana? Just
Yeah, a little bit.
My first apartment was almost that small.
Especially downtown.
Sounds like me. 10 in the morning?
I love this dress.
Green looks good on her.
It does.
I love his response.
That's great. Woo!
good one.
Oh, yes. That was good.
Do
I
you
so want to
guys
just watch the next one.
are you
Oh,
guys
man, I
aware
could go
of her
I could to
inspiration for this show?
I could so go right into the next one. I mean, that was awesome. That was awesome. There wasn't a single second of that episode that I wasn't completely in.
Well,
I
yeah,
think that was
there's
the
Wait, just
hardly
notice
any talking. There's no down moments. It's full pace. Amy Sherman Palladino, but you're
I think
just
that
Yeah,
was
I
the
mean,
relaxed.
there's
quietest we've been in a
Other
room in a long time.
yeah, we there were huge stretches of just well, I mean, I also think that well, maybe not so much on this couch, but I do sort of get this sense that the show is newer to everyone, whereas with Gilmore Girls, it felt like there was a lot of just sort of we're returning to this place that we are very familiar with, but also because Gilmore Girls feels more like a place, and this feels a little bit more like a driving narrative. Maybe that also contributed to the focus, but man, was that good?
she's a
that
natural
was
at that comedy.
that was really good. That was really really good. I mean, I know that I know she's a comedian because, like I said, I've seen little bits throughout, and you kind of gather that from the commercials, and like I said, I know the very end of season three, but I didn't really know, like, I could kind of see it coming. I didn't know the part about her husband being wanting to be a comedian himself and just being terrible at it. I kind of was get that was stuff that I just sort of guessed in the moment as it was happening. I sort of piecing things together, um, and it was really cool to see what drove her into that. Um, And once it happens, it's sort of everything sort of starts to fall into place in a way that makes total sense. Like I could kind of see that coming with her and what's the name of Alex's character?
Susie.
Susie. I could kind of see that coming with her and Susie at the bar. I predicted it a scene too early, but kind of saw that coming, but it didn't make it any less thrilling. You know, just an amazing episode. My gosh, that's like a 5.
Good pilot, isn't it?
I
Yeah,
just opened up the couch, so
Did you
great.
notice Danny Strong?
I didn't notice Danny Strong. Where was Danny Strong?
Right before she goes up onto the stage, you hear his voice. You don't see him, but it's his voice.
Oh
Oh,
shoot, I
okay.
didn't know that.
I didn't know that, but
Yeah, this is
I
like
don't
the
know Danny
fourth or
Strong's
fifth
voice in that.
times I've seen it. So it's like it's something that I've heard many times before. You see like a shadowy figure on the stage, and Bootsy tells him, says, Christian, get off the stage, thanks a lot, and she goes up, but it was Danny Strong.
Right, right. Um,
Oh, did we lose you?
Me? No. Sorry, I was just reading a back channel message. Um, uh,
Who else is new to
yeah,
the
what a
show that's up?
loser, huh? What a loser that Joel.
Oh, he's terrible.
He's definitely a character that I'm imagining is truly loathed
Ew.
by.
I wanted to seriously punch him. What a jerk.
Such a weak
We are
man.
not Team Joel.
He has a
No,
bad
not
night,
Team
so he
Joel.
leaves his wife. I mean, he's like, "Oh, I bombed. I gotta leave you now.
On the
I'm having
high
an
With
holy
affair."
her
days.
suitcase.
What?
It's the
Yeah,
high holy days.
Pretty sure
yeah. I
And the
mean,
Judah has
rabbi
a
was
word for that.
coming.
it seemed very very deliberate how much we see just better how much better at things, just
At
how
life.
at life, how much more skilled she is at everything, from like getting him spots and you know cooking and just everything. I made curry, but I also got Chinese food in case that doesn't in case you don't like it. Like just completely.
Her wedding speech. I mean, she
She's
opens up with this great story.
Yeah, she's just like an expert. And then this guy, like, has one bomb, and it's just like, I can't deal anymore. But also just like, it's true that like
Oh, I
I
was
mean,
gonna ask you guys earlier, but I lost my internet connection for a minute. If anyone's aware of her inspiration for this show.
no, what is the inspiration?
Isn't it Joan Rivers?
No,
I
it's
I
her
thought it was.
father. It's her father. Her father was a comedian, and
Oh,
her father was the first, meaning he carried a stool up.
the first what?
Never did that,
But
and
did what? I'm sorry, you cut out. You cut out.
he did his first acts in Greenwich Village in the 60s. So she said, like, when she was a kid, all his comedy friends would be over and they'd be in the backyard, like, trying their acts out on each other. So she said is her inspiration for the show. It's
But
kind of a
wait,
love letter
Kendra,
to her.
Kendra, I lost you for a second when you said he was the first who. I don't know what he was the first
Oh,
who did what.
he was the first sit down comedian.
Oh, sit down comedian.
He's the first comedian.
You went
Yep.
out again,
You cut
Kendra.
out again.
Okay, I was gonna say, is
Yeah,
it just
and
me
I
or?
thought I read something about it being about Joan Rivers. So that's very interesting.
No, it's her Yeah, his name was Don Sherman.
Interesting.
The lead character took her inspiration from Joan Rivers and a couple other people. The show was inspired by Maisel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have it. I'm sure that there are a variety of historical figures that some of these are loosely or maybe tightly based on. I mean, obviously, the Amy has a great love and knowledge for this era and comedy within this era. The Lenny Bruce stuff is just gold.
And Amy does also have comedians on staff with her. I know Jen Kirkman worked as a story editor on at least 10 episodes. And I saw her perform stand up in 2019, and before I knew that she had worked on the show. And as I was watching her, I went, this woman is an Amy Sherman Palladino character. Like, she talks fast like her, she has some of the jokes like her. And then when I found out she was on the show, I was like, oh, cool.
So now she's is is the idea that she's now going to like that end the end with her at the party and then going to are we kind of to gather that she's going to use this to make money?
Well, she is a single lady now.
Right, that she because right, because she doesn't have the money for the cab, and then that was sort of where that's sort of where she seems to be struck by the sudden inspiration to do it, where before she wasn't.
I don't know if I took it as she was going to use it to make money. I mean, like her parents are obviously really wealthy, and she I think would get by, but I think it was just exciting for her, and to do something that totally wasn't planned, and I think she was energized by it.
But
Well,
why? But why there? But why there? Why not? Why not in the? Why not in the bar with Susie? So like what changed? What suddenly
She
got her
she looked at
inspired?
her notebook.
Oh, the Notebook.
Yeah, it said one standing ovation will make you feel like you're pregnant or something to that effect, and that's all she need because she wrote that and she thought it was funny and she realized she was funny, and
Right.
that's all she needed.
Yep.
Right. Right. Right.
well, and Susie says, I don't want to be insignificant, and has that conversation with her about being remembered as just a housewife and a mother. And so that kind of, I think, sticks with her too. But like the very real conversation she has with her parents is all about how in 1958 a woman cannot survive as a divorcee. Like, that's just a fact. So, or according to their, like sort of their society. So she does have to figure out what to do. And it's a huge tragedy that like she'd be husbandless in their world.
There's
So
nothing like Jewish
yeah.
guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What an interesting obstacle to put in front of the character. I think that's so fascinating. Like that I mean, she's really like it's it's man against society right now. I mean, she has to overcome that.
Right. And it is her skill, like that's what she realizes, is that,
Right.
her skill is that she's been the one making the jokes. And
That she
so,
can do.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
not doing them right, so she wants to
We
do them.
yeah we can sense that she's probably equipped to succeed in this journey that she's about to embark upon.
Well, I always loved that the episode opens with her literally doing stand up at her own wedding. Like you find out immediately who she is. You know?
Right. Yeah, and she's also kind of doing she's kind of doing a bit of stand up like throughout the show, like without not on stage. She's just constantly, you know, got little quips, and she's quick witted, and she, like a lot of that stuff shows you that she just has it naturally, whereas he doesn't. I mean, like he never says anything, in situations that are particularly funny. He actually has to say, which was one of the I think sillier moments for him was when when they're having sex against the tree, and he's like, I want to make you laugh every day of your life. Just such a weird thing, like like for a comedian to say.
Yeah, just don't do it
Like,
right now.
yeah. Well, I mean, her response to it was funny. That was the comedy. His was just really bizarre, and didn't feel like anything an actual comedian would ever say.
Every time he tries to be funny at all, it gets really awkward.
Totally.
I think they did such an amazing job in this show of really kind of setting up all of these different layers to Midge's character, to I think really kind of show where she's at by the end of this episode, because we see that she's very kind of independent in like a lot of ways, like she kind of says what she wants and things like that, but she also tries really hard to be perfect, and to meet everybody's expectations, to always be thinking.
Can we talk about like the vintage um, beauty and the clothes and just the environment?
Did this get an award for costume design? Did it win an Emmy for costumes, or for production design? Did it get an Emmy? Maybe I would
Yes.
guess maybe it
There
lost
was a,
against Game of Thrones or something.
there was an editing, a music supervision, a writing, and a directing Emmy for this episode.
Okay, but probably I had to have been nominated for best costumes. I mean, these costumes are so good.
I know it's been nominated for a lot of different things, which is why I've always wanted to start it. So I'm glad that we're doing this watch now because I've been dying to watch it.
Definitely a little more risque than Gilmore Girls, that's for sure.
It did win, John. It did win in 2020 for outstanding period and character hairstyling.
Oh, cool.
And
That's good makeup, but those costumes. I mean, that the outfits are just amazing. Gosh, and Shaloub. Can we just talk about Shaloub right now?
I don't want to interrupt. This is great conversation, but I did drop the memento and people are messaging me, and I just want to quickly clear up a couple things
Yeah.
before it gets a little out of control. So I said it's the title to a song. It's 11 words. There's 4 capitals in the password. So there might be some things that aren't capitalized. There's 2 asterisks replacing something, and that's all I'm saying.
Didn't you use punctuation?
Oh
I
goodness.
replaced punctuation.
I haven't even looked. How many editions are there?
65,
But
so
yeah, there's a
basically
lot.
enough for
There's a lot.
everybody here.
Everyone
Okay,
that was here tonight can get one if they want, and I'm assuming some people won't, but there's people tomorrow too that might want to claim one.
cool.
Okay, so those were the hints. Take your shot. We can talk about it at the end again later. But I know some people wanted the memento to get an additional boost. So
So just to confirm, Kim, you said it's a title to a song, 4 caps, 11 words, and 2 asterisks.
Yes,
Okay.
and I wrote that in Discord too. So
You said title to a song or words in a song?
no, it's the title to a song.
Got it. Okay. Anyway, back to Shaloub.
I have never seen the show before. I actually didn't know anything about it. Like I know no plot, nothing. I don't know why I never watched it, other than my mom told me to watch it, and who does that?
And what did you
But
think?
I really liked it. I like have a lot of questions, but I'm hooked. Whereas like with Firefly, I turned it off within 10 minutes. I was like, I just can't do this. But
You're
this, I
like
was like,
you're like
I want to know what
spaceships.
happens next.
You're like spaceships and cowboys. Not for me.
You know, I gave it the good old try, and
You gave it
it's just not for
you
me.
gave it the college try. That's fair.
I'm open to new things, and I didn't know if I would like a period piece, because it's not always
Oh, really?
my yeah. But I loved the wallpaper in her house. Oh my gosh, and her dishes. That pink color was gorgeous.
If you really, for folks who really like this series, I have to imagine would love the Queen's Gambit. Like if the period of if the
That is
It
a
was a
period
brilliant
great show
show.
too.
Yeah, I
Brilliant
did
So
like
Queen's
glad.
that
Gambit.
one. That makes sense. I did like that one a lot.
yeah, I mean it has some similarities in terms of like you know a protagonist who's really skilled, kind of going against sort of a lot of it is like you know again against herself, against society, against all of these odds that all these odds that are sort of stacked against her, but because of how skilled she is, and of course at a time where we get all of this, all of these uh, gender conflicts, I guess, and also just the style of both shows are that amazing period costumes and whatnot. So I just feel like if you love this show, you probably love Queen's Gambit.
I do love the Queen's Gambit. I would recommend it to anybody, whether you like chess or not. It's so good. And not just for the period drama of it or costuming, but that stuff is fantastic in that as
Yeah, and I just think, I mean, I haven't seen enough of this yet, but I have seen, like I said, bits and pieces here and there, and then with this episode that I think that there are similarities to the protagonist. Obviously, there's different backstory in Queen's Gambit, and the personalities of the characters are, of course, very different. But there are similarities in terms of their journey, in terms of their obstacles against, society and a bit of themselves. Um, that just make it like I feel like it's in the same world. Sans the Amy Sherman Palladino esque dialogue and can, can somebody like um clarify the beginning of this for me at the college, or was that at a college?
Yeah, it was college, and it was, it was her giving the story of her and Joel, like through all those flashbacks during the wedding scene.
Yeah, but where did
But
I was kind of confused as to where the college stuff fit into all of that. It was just suddenly like, and then I met
She was
Joel.
yeah,
saying that she went there to meet a guy.
yeah, she was getting her Mrs. degree. That's
Yeah.
what she was getting. Yeah,
Her Mrs.
and that was
degree.
the
Can
whole
you explain that? Like, what does that mean?
her Ms. degree. Like that's
Yeah,
like you've never heard that before, where
no.
When women back then went to
Really?
college so that they would meet a man. Emily talked about it too in
Oh,
Gilmore
Girls.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Yeah,
the
they
whole
call it the
purpose.
MRS degree.
MRS degree, that's what it is. Yeah, no, that was the whole purpose of her going to college, was to meet a husband.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, the MRS degree is also very prevalent in Christian colleges and universities. Like I've met girls because I went to a Christian university for a few years, and I met girls, and their sole purpose for going there was to find a husband.
Wow. I remember we did talk about that a little bit during Gilmore Girls, with Emily. Did Emily go to a college? Like, did she go to university?
Yes,
Yes, she went to Smith.
she got a history
She went,
degree.
and she said she went there for to find a husband, or it was implied.
It was implied by her that that's what people did back then. I don't know if she was saying that she herself did it, but that was also why, in A Year in the Life at the end, when she goes to work at that whaling museum, she was finally getting to use her history degree.
Got it. Got it. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, makes a lot more sense now.
And Midge was at Bryn Mawr, I believe. Bryn Mawr. Bryn Mawr. Yeah. Sorry, I haven't slept much, but that is the college Midge was attending when we saw her flashbacks.
Is everybody working on the memento right now?
Yeah, I know the answer, but I can't get the
No,
formula
I'm
for
not.
it.
I,
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
have. I've been
I'm
trying to
sorry
answer for
for
a
the
while.
disruption. I'm really sorry for the
It's a
I was
it's a
like, I was
very
like,
We were
good
having
man.
some
one.
good conversation,
Well, it
and
was
I'm
Yeah, I
being
know
like
the
there's a
answer.
lot of.
I
overwhelmed
just
with
can't figure out
messages.
the
Well, I do feel
pacing.
like the show really has a lot of great areas for us to talk. To talk about like society and gender roles and all of that kind of stuff. And then it was just like silent, and so I was like, what? Oh, memento, right?
Tony Shalhoub.
Tony
Brilliant.
Shalhoub. Can we just talk for a brief moment about some
He's so
Shalhoub?
good in this. He is
He's
just so
so
good in
good.
this.
He's so good. I I,
He's
I
good in
hope that
everything he
he
does.
yeah, he's incredible. Um, I hope that I know that like I said, I've never watched it, and I really would like to now. I really would like to watch Monk at some point. I know that it's Keiko's favorite show, or one of her favorite shows. She used to have a podcast about Monk where she was watching Monk, and then her and a friend of hers were watching Monk, and they were doing podcast episodes of their thoughts of the episode.
Like
And
drunk monk.
I
yeah, it was Drunk Monk. That's right. It was Drunk Monk. They would get drunk while watching watching Monk, and and uh, and I know that she's just loves Tony Shalhoub, and I just really hope that he's got a big role in this. I hope that he's not like we see him every once in a while. Like I'm hoping he's like a really like main cast member because he's just awesome on screen.
And the actress who plays his wife,
Yeah, she's
is,
awesome too.
um, I'm she's been in so many different things, but um, I don't know. There's something about the dynamic between him and her that just makes me go, "Oh, this is just absolutely perfect."
Between the him and his wife, or between
He,
him and Midge.
between him and his wife,
Okay, yeah.
and us, well, and also between him and Midge too. I mean, I don't know.
That's
Like I like the mother character a lot.
that scene where she tells them that Joel has left her is so expertly just written and directed. I mean, just all of that stuff, her like sort of first blaming Midge and then going down and crying on the couch, then getting up and going into the room and the camera following, see her going in the room, then they go back into the living room, then her and her husband or her and her father, and then suddenly the camera moves and her mom comes back through the doors and like just like the whole thing was just like you could see that it was so very inspired by like it felt very real in a way that th- this may look a little bit like potentially arguments that Amy's had with her parents, in some way. Like it really felt that like nuanced and realistic.
If you like this, you're gonna like future episodes, John.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely. There's no doubt that this is going to be one of those shows that, you're just like ready to dig into.
When he's like, what was the one thing that I told you? And then she's like, not to pick a weak man. And then he just like does that little thing with his finger.
All I can say is this is an amazing show, and Amy just absolutely floors it with this as well. You know,
Yeah, I mean, so far I don't really want to compare it to Gilmore Girls because I think that it's so true that the shows are just too different. The one of them is this one is so clearly like a novel. It feels like a serialized novel. I do not expect the next episode to be its own little self-contained story. Like I am following this like a soap opera. Whereas Gilmore Girls feels very much in like the style of like little contained storylines per episode that you kind of return to. And in that way, it's sort of hard to compare them. But I will just say I'm I'm so hooked right now by this first episode in a way that's like very uncommon for me in television, in any television.
They are very different, but you also just see Amy's style in each, like just the strong women. Diana said like men are weak. Like you just see all the same themes.
Well, but weak man was what they said about Christopher. Like Emily
Yeah.
says, he's a weak man. So it's like a really interesting concept that the same writer is writing into this show. It's got to,
Yeah,
like, I would love to sit her down and ask her about that. Like, where does that come from? You know
I
what I
know, and
mean?
also
Like,
totally, and I also want to kind of get a sense for like what is. I mean, we're seeing what Amy's definition of a weak man is, right? I mean, which I guess you could say is a pretty good universal definition of a weak person. But yeah, I mean, it feels like she's known some weak men of this grade.
well, is it that, or is it some sort of like social construct that she's playing with, right? Like I always think about Amy Sherman Palladino's generation and her age and how she might have grown up, and she was in New York, so like, right? Am I right about that? So like I kind of feel like I'm always putting together
Was she in New
what
York?
I don't remember now. Now I'm not sure, but I always think about like what kind of um gender and societal constructs she grew up with that she's maybe writing against, or putting in there to sort of prove a point about what she knew about her world, as a younger person, and how she developed all of her ideas um, about how people are. And so, for it to come up in two shows is actually really interesting for me because, they are of two different eras, not only in her career, but, they're set in two different eras, and she's sort of writing the same um or a similar idea that I feel like she's just got to she's got a bone to pick with it, you know?
Well, both of these shows and others of hers are about strong female lead characters. So when you talk about a weak man, it kind of helps with that whole construct of the woman is supposed to be the strong, confident character. So you've got to kind of downgrade the men a little bit to make that
Yeah, I
happen.
mean, that might
So there's
be
a weak
it.
man in their life.
Yeah, but not all of the men in Gilmore Girls were downgraded. It's really mostly we're talking about
It's just
Christopher.
the one, yeah, the one man for
But
each of them.
I will say though that the Christopher character and the Joel character, while both of them have these qualities that you could say like, wow, that's a weak man or a weak person, they also seem different. And I don't know if that's because they're products of different times, right? Like Joel kind of is handed a lot more because he was born at that time and lived as a man at that time when men were just given more than they are given now. More they men were more entitled to things back in that time period, but Joel feels more. I wasn't okay. This is a better way to say it. I wasn't ready to dislike Christopher at the beginning, even though I recognized that he was a wishy-washy type of guy. Like I don't like Joel. You know what I mean? Like from the get-go. And I think that there's something different about these weak men, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because they just like if Christopher was born at this time and had a wife who felt obligated to keep the marriage going, right? Would he be more like a Joel in
Possibly. We also get to
Gilmore?
see. Never mind.
Yeah, I
We
mean
get.
in Gilmore Girls, you've got a character in Lorelai who just on her own just decides like I'm doing this on my own. I'm out of here. I'm not even consulting you. Like I'm raising my child. And in this, you have a also really strong-willed woman, right? Who stands there begging for him not to leave her.
Yeah, and we get
But
to
that's
see his rise and fall in her life. And in Christopher's case, we saw him after the fact. We didn't get to see how any of that went down. But with this one, you get to see her fall in love with him, and then he has his downfall. We didn't see that with Christopher.
right, but also Midge Maisel is very different from Lorelai Gilmore in that Midge Maisel has a lot less options in 1958
This is
than
what I
a
meant.
16-year-old Gilmore like
Yeah,
Lorelai has. Yeah.
that's what I mean by products of their time. But I would also say that's what I'm trying to get out with Joel versus Christopher. Joel, just as Midge had less options because of that power differential, Joel is absolutely in full power and control to do what he wants to do. And so what he's doing as a weak man is so clearly gross. Um,
Yeah, because he also like knows exactly what he's doing, right? He knows that if he leaves his wife, like she like the the repercussions of that for her life and his children's lives are really dramatic. And so he's definitely being a jerk because he is not thinking of anybody but himself in that moment. And like, but he knows like what happens in this society. They have the rabbi coming the next day, like he knows. And so that is what makes him, I think, a lot more despicable for sure.
yeah, but I'm just wondering if if Christopher had been born in a time where he gets equally as much power within society and within his relationship with Lorelai, does he also behave in that kind of a despicable manner? Then that's what I mean by like products of their time. You know, um, if we're saying they're both weak men, then either there's a lot of different shades of what that means, or there's a more narrow definition of what that means, but it looks different to us because those men get different given circumstances in their lives. Christopher has to accept that Lorelai's like, I'm off. I'm raising this kid on my own. Like he can't really argue with that. He lives at a time where that is absolutely and totally acceptable and fine, or at least it's acceptable enough. Joel, he doesn't wouldn't have to worry about anything like that if that were the case here, because society has made it much harder for Midge.
I don't know. I think I'm inclined to believe that Christopher would be similar. Um,
Me
but
too. Me
also,
too. Me too.
yeah.
That's kind of where I'm getting kind of going with it. But like, but I'm just saying, like, yeah.
Well, and I think the other difference is too, or that we're never really introduced to Christopher having any true passions, like anything that he really wanted to do. Whereas like we're getting a clear and also Christopher was a child, and Joel is we're assuming like somewhere in their 20s, right? But Joel clearly has this like dream, right, of wanting to do stand-up comedy for whatever reason, and you that's what he's chasing, and she's such a big part of that, and so when it's not going to happen, she goes away too. So um yeah, like I feel like with Christopher we weren't really told that Christopher had any like big dreams that he's chasing, maybe at the expense of his family. He just was like, oh, I guess I'm not gonna raise the child, okay, like like he's just sort of like he doesn't have a ton of agency there, or he doesn't utilize it, whereas Joel is actually utilizing his agency in a lot of ways, because he's chasing something that he wants, and
But do
it
you think
doesn't
it's
seem.
because he's been given agency, um, whereas uh, Christopher doesn't seem to have been given a lot of agency. I mean, his father is super like domineering, and
Well, we haven't met Joel's parents yet, so maybe we can have that conversation then. But
mm-hmm.
I mean, he does say like I push paper around, I don't know what it is I do, which is also like a really interesting critique on like corporate America emerging at this time, and like office jobs, and like what is it that men go to work and do all day, like we're not sure, and it's that's a really interesting thing too, is that now he has this job. They probably they grew up a decade before where maybe having a dream of like stand up in a club was like a little bit more accessible, but now that he's older, he has to get an office job because he's got a family to support, and sort of falls into this really like white collar type career, and doesn't know what he does all day, and so maybe his agency is lacking because he feels really pushed into this life and it's not what he wants.
but but
um
but
yeah.
what about the idea that maybe stand-up comedy isn't even really truly his dream? It's just maybe stand-up comedy sort of represents something outside of that world, and
Right.
and he just doesn't want to be in that sort of stuffy, boring world.
Yeah, and the other thing like that I just thought of upon watching it this time is that when he says to her, what do you mean, like of course this is what I want to do, where she just thinks it's kind of a side hobby, like what does Joel actually think success looks like? You know what I mean? Like in this world, is it Lenny Bruce? Because Lenny Bruce isn't really that famous yet, so or is it Bob Newhart? Like like I'm curious as to what Joel thinks like the future is as a successful comedian, if he makes it, if he keeps doing this like hustle, what does it look like to him? To her it's like a fun night out, but to him he's actually looking for some kind of success. So I'm curious as to what he thinks that looks like and what it is.
Sorry, chewing. If I had to guess, he his image of success is fame.
Yeah,
I don't think
probably.
that I, I don't think that he really cares about comedy. I think what he wants is to be like what he sees on TV. So he's become a really good rip-off artist. He's become really good at seeing something and imitating it because he wants to be that thing. He imagines being that thing. But it doesn't have anything to do with the love for the actual thing itself that he's doing.
Well, he was jealous of the rabbi for getting more laughs than he does. So that's what he wants. He wants the admiration and the laughter from,
Yeah,
he wants the people to notice what he's.
exactly. Which is really the root of the the need for fame that many people have. This like burning need for fame is really truly, when you boil it down, it's the need for approval, it's the need for appreciation. Now I'm more than ever dying to meet his parents to understand why somebody would be that desperate for for admiration and validation. um, but I don't get a sense that he cares about comedy, because he doesn't even care when she's implying to him that like stealing other people's jokes is not really art. He doesn't even seem to care. Like that doesn't bother him at all, because to him, yeah, it's not about art. It doesn't matter. I'm on a path. That path is not about me becoming a great comedian. It's about me becoming a person that people are going to admire.
Yeah. Which is funny because that line that Susie says about not being insignificant, I think that's like a good through line for the whole episode, is that, like that's what he's looking for. He doesn't want to be the guy who just pushes paper around. He doesn't know what he does all day.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's really cool. That maybe the whole series, it like that's a big theme in the series, is like significance, you know, and finding significance, finding a sense of significance.
Yeah, especially when the decks are kind of stacked against you with like everybody having to fill specific roles, and even uptown versus downtown. I mean, it's she puts on pants to go downtown, because that's okay there, but it's not okay on the Upper West Side. And so it's really interesting that there are all these roles that they're sort of destined to fill, but like they get to go outside of them sometimes. It's a significant shift. So I wonder if Joel is just sort of like, how did we get here living uptown, like he doesn't want that. But yeah, I mean, they do paint too, like downtown being like this the cool hip, that whole world is a little bit more authentic than what they're living uptown.
And also remember, Joel wanted to live downtown.
Yeah.
He thought that was cooler.
Yeah, I mean, it is cooler, right? I mean,
The
that's
night
like
that's where the nightlife is.
that's where the artists live.
Right.
That's where that's where the cool kids are.
Right, but one night in like a bedroom like Susie's, and he'd be like, I want my classic six back,
Right, exactly.
like.
Which again, like speaks to that point of it. It's not really what he wants from like I love that. It's more I love what that projects onto me. That what that makes me look like, and therefore what makes other people like me. Like it's true. Like what is success? Is it Lenny Bruce? Because like I mean, even there, it's like I mean, Lenny Bruce is like does not look like he is living a particularly comfortable life. you know
But comfortable as comfortable in the 50s was a lot different than comfortable now too.
I'm just saying he looks a little miserable.
Yeah.
He also like spent the night in jail, so
Yeah.
Right.
Spent many nights in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
his
gonna
Totally.
wife.
say it sounded like his
Well,
favorite jail is when his
right.
wife
His
came at the
his
end, going
wife
like,
said,
Routine.
there's what I went to the other one because that's your favorite.
Yeah, it was funny, and a great that was a great final moment of his. I actually wish that I mean, if I have to be like fully honest about the writing, I mean, I loved 99.9% of it. Just didn't need her to say you do.
like she didn't need to finish that. Is what you're
She didn't
saying?
need to finish that. Well, first of all, people don't do that. Like that's something that bugs me in most films and television shows when people like say something to themselves out loud. um, it just doesn't ever happen,
If
or
people not do that, I do that.
rarely ever happens.
I
I
talk to
don't know.
myself all the time.
Maybe so, but
Same,
it
I
just
do.
All the
it
time.
okay, great, all right. Well, then I stand corrected. But I don't know. Those moments always feel a little. I just didn't need it. I loved his response. Just the shrug. That's all. I don't. I know what he's saying. I didn't. I don't need to be told what he's saying. Maybe a little nod. Just a little critique. I mean, come on. She's a
You're
genius.
fine.
She's a
We're
genius. She's a
we're
genius writer. She can get like one tiny critique.
There's nothing wrong with having your opinion on that, Not all of us talk out loud to ourselves all the time. Only some of us do it only in front of our work computers, not in our daily lives otherwise.
In
Not
some
many
ways, I
women say.
think watching this now after Gilmore, I think, um, I Gilmore actually they talked faster. I think than this one. I don't know if it's the time period it was set in again or what, but it seemed like got a little bit of a slower pace. And like we said before earlier, I felt like um, this you can't like this episodes you can't really watch standalone like you can Gilmore.
There's not
But
there's not commercials. They don't have to cram in as much into the same amount of time.
right, that's true.
She well, that's absolutely true because a huge part of the style of Gilmore Girls really really truly was we have 80 pages that we have to get through and they don't want to cut anything. There's only one way to do that. But um I think that just the style of the show isn't one that where that kind of fast-paced dialogue is needed for that. There are a couple of moments where a character might get really fast. Midge tends to at times talk really fast, but it doesn't feel like a
Right.
general
When
pacing and
when
cadence
she
of the
came out of the jail, just how she was asking her about, or how she was talking back and forth to Susie, just sounded almost like a something from Lorelai's mouth. I feel like that was very much her like a speech she would have given if she was coming out of jail.
Well, Lorelai bailed 3 people out of jail.
I
I
think.
feel like,
She
no, go ahead.
did.
Oh no, go ahead. Whoever was
Oh,
about
it
to
was
speak.
me. I feel like the dialogue in Maisel matches up a little more with the movement and like the speed of the city versus like
typical New
Lorelai
York.
already talking fast in the small town that could be slower paced. But maybe that's just me.
No,
Maybe
it's
and maybe
definitely
that's why
typical New York to me.
Right, and maybe that's
Everything is
why it doesn't. Maybe that's why it doesn't seem as fast because it's matching the pulse of the city versus, in Stars Hollow, everything is kind of probably a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of out of place in Stars Hollow talking fast versus they're not out of place in New York.
They're just caffeinated.
Yeah.
I just think that actress Rachel Brosnahan is just amazing. She was only like 26 years old or something when she was in this, and I feel like she just did an amazing job.
Yeah, she's awesome. She was in the first thing that I ever saw her in was House of Cards.
That was an amazing show
Which I
too.
never watched.
Yeah, she's in House of Cards. She plays the
Rachel.
she plays Rachel. She plays the call girl prostitute that is like part of the whole kind of big conspiracy in the first season. Um, and I remember her that I was really impressed with her performance in that. Um, but I mean, night and day different. I mean, she's just stellar. That monologue that she has there, the drunk comedy act is just incredible, incredible, and also really well directed. Like, you know, like the actual blocking of her going around and talking to the audience member, and then the guy coming out of the bathroom, all that stuff is just it's such a complete scene. It's so good. Police coming in at the end. It's just phenomenal.
I was also noticing, like, for the first time I saw this, that the house, the Midge's parents' apartment had mezuzahs on the door, and I'm like, wow, they do have a mezuzah, and it's just like, and that's a typical thing for Jews to have to protect their house from evil. But it's like, if you see it, it's a little like rectangular thing that hangs on their doorpost. I'm
Oh,
like,
I didn't notice it. Point it out next time.
I
okay, if I see it again.
I
It was
noticed
in.
them because we have them on our doors at work because my bosses are Jewish and they have them on all the doorways.
Yeah, so it was like kind of cool to see that there. I didn't notice that the first time I watched it.
people still use those today, though, don't they?
They still use them. It's supposed to be a symbol of good luck, and so that evil doesn't trespass your doorway. And it's like they got the rabbi, which is also big.
Yeah, I can't
Can
wait to
somebody
see this
explain that to me?
rabbi.
The whole rabbi thing, Nancy. Can you explain that? Like, what was such a big deal about getting the rabbi?
He was
Well, because
mad at them for the wedding.
right. Well, the rabbi, like having the rabbi at Yom Kippur, it's just like one of the holiest holidays of the year to have him to break the fast with you. He's like the rabbi is the head of the congregation, and so he's like the high, I'd say high priest, but he so getting somebody so stellar and so high in the community and so religious to come to your dinner, that's a big thing.
That's interesting, and that Clara,
And that
refresh me. Did she get that? Was Midge largely responsible for it, or are we to gather that her family has a pretty high standing in the community?
probably her family has the high standing.
Got it.
But yeah, so it's like they he can't go to everybody's house, so it's just like he has to pick, and
Did you see in the scene where she's leaving the apartment, like she passes the dining room and it's all set up for the next day? It's so incredible. The table's
Yeah.
all set.
It said on IMDb that when she was at the butcher's, that she's saying
yeah,
that everybody's coming, that the next customer ordered pork chops, which if the rabbi knew that, he wouldn't actually attend because it would no longer be a kosher.
Right,
It's
right.
not a kosher.
Well, I'm so excited for this series. I'm glad that we actually are doing all three seasons. That we're going to do season one for this first slate, and then in the new year we're going to continue into season two and three, um, and I mean this could be like depending on when season four drops. I mean, I would be kind of into making. We don't have any. We haven't had any shows, any Remarcus content that the community has watched where everyone is blind going in. Which I think is kind of cool. Would be kind of cool
We
if
should do it.
right.
If it
I,
drops soon enough, yeah. I don't know when it's dropping.
yeah, I don't know when it's dropping either.
I
It,
Um,
it
think
was
I think
supposed to
it's dropping in
drop.
January.
Yeah, it was supposed to drop like now, but it got delayed.
yeah, of course,
What is it?
like everything.
I think I heard January to February.
Okay. That might be a little late for us because we're gonna finish in March. We're gonna finish at the beginning of March. We'll get to the end of season three. So,
But we
um,
can, yeah.
Everyone just needs to wait.
We all need to wait. Yep. Let's just,
oh my gosh, like
We'll
could
wait.
you imagine if we can get everybody in the Remarcus community to like not watch Maisel just so that we can watch it together?
Well,
That'd be
we
honor
have
awesome.
so much
system.
other stuff to watch.
The honor system. um, all right, I'm gonna head out. This was great. We'll continue with this on Saturday. Just a reminder, we do have two other slate shows that are happening. That are happening now. We have Mondays and Thursdays. We have Firefly. We're closing in on the. Well, no, we're
Episode
still
5
only
on Thursday.
we're at episode 5. We're still not at the midpoint of the series yet, but it's a great series. It's science fiction, so that probably has to be your bag for you to at least be able to enjoy it to a degree. But if you can dig some science fiction, it's some of the best I've ever seen. It's absolutely awesome. The themes are amazing, and the character development is just so good. We also have RuPaul's Drag Race, which we're watching on Wednesdays and Fridays. We actually have an interesting one coming up tomorrow for Drag Race that I should mention. Uh, the 10th episode of Drag Race was removed from all U.S. streaming platforms because of a lawsuit that actually was won by somebody who was on the show, and that lawsuit meant that it got taken down. So we don't actually have an episode tomorrow to watch. Instead, we're going to be treating it as sort of a mix between a gab session where Elle and Regina are going to talk us through what actually happened in the episode, and we're going to be directed to various YouTube clips from the episode. And we can watch those as well. It's actually pretty interesting what happened and why it was taken down. At least from what I was reading, it sounds interesting. So yeah, Wednesdays and Fridays Drag Race, Mondays and Thursdays are Firefly, and now we have Tuesdays and Saturday mornings are our Maisel watches, and we are now officially running on full cylinders. We have a slate show every night of the week and will until the end of December, or sorry, it's not the end of December, through the beginning of December, when our slate will end and we will move into our hiatus, our Christmas hiatus. 3 weeks of Christmas watches by the community every day. We'll have about 2 to 3 Christmas watches from folks within the community, all kinds of movies and TV shows that we know well, that are all Christmas themed, and all of those members participating are going to be participating in a Secret Santa memento exchange, in which everyone is going to be creating one very high density memento. Density in our mementos means something. It means that the mementos are quite rare, and we are going to be creating 1 very high density memento. Density in our mementos means something. It means that the mementos are quite rare, and we are going to be creating 1 very high density memento. Density in our mementos means something. It means that the mementos are quite quite resilient. And so everybody's going to be creating one edition for one other person that you're going to be randomly getting, and I'll be giving those names out tomorrow. So if you're one of the folks who are going to be hosting one of those showings tomorrow, you'll find out who you're creating a memento for, and that's kind of exciting.
Tomorrow
Yeah.
it says episode 8 for Drag Race, not 10.
Oh, then then Elle just told me about episode 10, and I just spaced and thought that she was talking about tomorrow. Yeah, no, tomorrow episode 8 is going to be episode 8, and that'll be fine. And then episode 9 will be on Friday, and next Wednesday that will be episode 10, where we are just going to be, I guess, talking about what happened. So yeah, that's what we're doing at Remarkist. If you're new, if this is your first time watching with us, please join us. We have a Discord channel. It's really lively. You can find a link to that at our app at remarkist.com in the sidebar. Join us. Come onto our Discord channel. Give yourself a role in the roles channel. That will open up a bunch of the other channels that are actually hidden to folks when they first arrive. And join us there. Lots of us, hundreds of us actually, that are just chatting about our favorite shows and movies and books and all that good stuff. I will see you all tomorrow on the Discords, in the clubhouses. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks,
Good
John.
night.
Have a good night.
Good
Night, everyone.
night.
Bye.